someday you might see it. Yeah, never say die. Got to go.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to more of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Dynasty series. It's me, Cooper, and today we're going to be talking about Amnael, otherwise known as Professor Banner. Professor Banner is a really interesting character in the show that liked to use banishing cards, and yes, I put that together recently, that his name is freaking Banner, and I think it's funny too. So, when it comes to banishing cards, he is the king, and some of his cards from the show did not exist, so I had to add a couple cards in here to make up for it. Like, there were a bunch of monsters that were called alchemy beasts that are not in this game, so simply I had to give him basic attribute monsters, different attribute monsters, so that's what he got from me to help him summon his Spirit of the Flames, Rock Spirit, Aqua Spirit, Garuda Spirit, and work with his Elemental Absorber, which is a really interesting card that stops attacks. He's all about removing cards from play, so his focus is getting Macrocosmos on the field. Once Macrocosmos hits the field, this deck can actually get unlocked. Without Macrocosmos, this deck is a little slow. The best he's got is Soul Release, which is still a good card. It could definitely knock out 5 cards, which makes it easier, but overall, he does depend on banishing cards to get out his best monsters. So, let's go ahead and go through his stats. Amnael's attack stat is going to be interesting because of the cards I gave him. He's got 1700, 1600, 1500, 1700. That's not bad at all. All of these are great, or usable at least. His boss monster is the Helios Trismegistus, and this card gains 300 attack and special attack for every card or monster. Wait, hold up. Each number of removed from play monsters. Okay, so that includes your opponent's removed from play zone. For every removed from play monster, this guy gets 300 attack and defense. We have Golden Homunculus, which this card gains 300 attack and defense for each of your banished cards. Doesn't just say monsters, it means cards. We have Helios Duo Magistus, which has 200 attack for all banished monsters, and that's really good. And then we have DD Survivor with an 1800 beater, which, if it gets removed from play, it keeps coming back at the end phase, which is amazing. Spirit of the Flames, which has 2000 attack when it is your battle phase, 1700 normally, which is amazing. Rock Spirit, which has 2000 attack when it is your opponent's battle phase, and 1700 when it's yours, which is amazing. Aqua Spirit at 16 and Garuda at 16, very nice. And of course, the Helios Trio, Helios the Primordial Sun, which is only 100 points for every move from play monster. They also have a DD Scout Plane with just 800 attack. Some of these cards are obviously gifts from me. He's got Chaos Greed to help him draw more cards if there's nothing in his graveyard, which is possible with Soul Release. We got Pot of Greed. We got Grand Convergence. If he can pull off Macrocosmos, it destroys all monsters on the field. And it's pretty, to your opponent, and wait, no, it inflicts 300 damage to your opponent and destroys all monsters on the field, so you get 300 burn. But, yeah, this is basically what his deck is. His attack stat is going to be a little hard for me to measure because all of his basic beaters are actually pretty good, especially since he has monsters that can get up to 2000. He has a straight up 18 beater, he has straight up 17 beaters, that's really good. And his boss monsters, let's say Golden Homunculus and Helios Trismegistus, can be extremely powerful, especially the Golden Homunculus. So, because he has so much potential for power, but because it is potential, I'm going to give him a 6 bar in attack stat. Mostly because he has 2000 beat sticks, which is really good, but 6 bars is only because, even though he could be one of the strongest people in the series, it would take a lot of setup. You need to get Macrocosmos on like the first turn. You do have 3 of them, and just like Destiny board with Bakura in the last season, it should not be hard to draw. So there you go. Going into the defense stat, that's where things go a little bit south because 1150, 1200, 1000, same stat, 1500, same stat, 200, ew, 1000, 1200, 1200, 1200, Okay. Yeah, we're going to just have to admit it. This guy is not about defense. He's not a tanker. His potential monsters will give him some points because they could potentially be tanks if for some reason he needed to play in defense mode. But overall, I would not play him in defense mode. This deck is going to get a 3 bars in defense. It's pretty pitiful. Other than DD Survivor, though, it's not like they're very weak. I mean, the Primordial Sun is probably going to be pretty weak, but most of them at least are above 1,000, and that's kind of nice. Either way, though, we're going to get out of the defense stat because that's not very good, and we're going to start talking about the speed stats. So speed stat, none of these are speed. This is speed because if this gets destroyed by battle, I believe, let's see. After this card attacks, it can attack once more if your opponent controls a monster. That's cool. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, special summon it during the end phase and it gains 500 attack and defense. So if they get rid of your Macrocosmos and this gets destroyed by battle, guess what? You get to come back. And that's freaking awesome. So that's special summon. This is the same effect, so that's special summon, but I think you only increase by 300 attack and defense. This is special summon if you get removed from play. This is special summon, special summon, special summon, special summon. All of these are special summon by Macrocosmos, but that only counts as Macrocosmos, not them. This is special summon. This is draw power, draw power, draw power. That's tactical, actually. That's tactical-ish, actually. This is special summon. It brings back a monster that was removed from play. That's about skill, and this can technically be considered a stall skill card, and it's a special summon card, so they get speed for this too. This deck is fast. There's no other way to say it. This is a fast deck. Amnael, he was the final Shadow Rider for a reason. He is really strong, and honestly, this deck can be kind of menacing, so we're going to go ahead and give Amnael, I would say, 6 bars in speed. They've earned it. They earned the 6 bars. But now we need to get into the skill stat. So the skill stat is based on a lot of factors like burn, like stall, like win conditions, like other stuff too. I'm just not thinking of it. So these guys constantly being reborn technically count as stall. So there's a point. Let's see. DD Survivor and DD Scalplane as constant revivers can technically count as stall. So that's a point right there. Soul Release. There are some situations where I can count that as a skill card. Banishing cards from the graveyard might actually make a difference. So I'm going to give that a point. Grand Convergence. Well, it does burn. Okay, it does burn. I have to give it a point. Elemental Absorber is super stally. So this one for sure gets a stall point. 100% gets a stall point. Lots of stall points, actually, because this thing just stalls all attributes. Oh, man. I mean, he has an attribute for everything in this deck. He has dark, light, water, earth. He has every attribute in this deck. So he could stall you forever. This deck could technically stall you forever, and that's crazy, unless you MST it. So this is a huge stall card. And then Macrocosmos can be a stall card depending on the deck, so that's pretty huge too. Overall, this deck is extremely skilled in the stall factor, and it has some burn potential. But mostly it's about the stall. This deck is insane. The Elemental Absorbers will literally ruin the duel for you, because if he gets every attribute on the Elemental Absorber, guess what? That means you ain't attacking for the rest of the duel. You have to win some way else. If your deck is only about attacking and you let them pull off this Elemental Absorber idea, you lose. You lose the duel. You have to MST it. If you don't MST it, you lose the duel. It's just that simple. It's really sad. And since you can't attack, literally they're just going to keep building up their monster power. They're going to keep removing play cards. Amnael will destroy you. This is an extremely skilled-based deck. This deck, it may not have a win condition, but it is 100% skill-based. It is 100% interesting, and most of the time, this deck, it can win through attack. Don't get me wrong, but it probably will win due to skill every duel. There will be a skill-based card that wins them the duel every single time. So, I'm going to say it, Amnael receives a maximum 8 bars for skill. Easily with all of this. It's just too much. This deck is about the skill. This deck has stall, burn, freaking stall. It's literally ready to stall you to death, and it can take away some of your graveyard options, so that's really amazing. Okay, but that's enough talking about that. Let's get into the brick stat, which is important for Amnael because not bricky, 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 not bricky, not bricky-ish. All of these are bricky-ish. In fact, they can brick you completely if you get Macrocosmos early. Not bricky at all, not bricky. Can be bricky, but cannot be bricky at the same time. Not bricky, technically. This can be a brick, technically, because you need Macrocosmos. This can technically be a brick. This was technically not bricky, and this is not bricky. So overall, this deck is extremely mixed, and you definitely can get bad hands from it pretty often. So because of that, I'm forced to give Amnael 4 bars in brick. It's definitely a brickable deck. When I've tested this deck, I have bricked multiple times, and I've not been able to pull off the combo because I started with cards like, oh no, I started with Macrocosmos, and then I started with all of these cards, but not knowing I was going to draw all of them. And then it was like, oh crap, my guys got removed from play. I couldn't remove them from play to summon these cards, so now they're just bricks in my hand. It literally happens, people. You gotta watch out. The deck can work against itself sometimes. That's why it's a huge skill-based deck. But what are you gonna do? Overall, though, looking at this deck of Amnael, it actually just straight up counters other decks in the series. It's pretty freaking brutal. A lot of people need to use their graveyard, so the fact that you could just take that away from them is extremely brutal. So, thanks to that, I'm going to have to say it, Amnael's potential for winning the tournament, this deck is a tournament potential winner, but because it's so easy to fall apart while using it, I am only going to give this deck 2.5 stars. I know it sounds like I should have been giving it more given how much praise I was giving it, but I'm not going to lie, I have had some really bad test duels with this deck. It has fallen apart on me all the time. And even though it's really fun to play, it comes at a cost. That entertainment comes at a cost. It's a hard deck to use. It can win the tournament. That's why it's getting the 2.5 stars. But most likely you're going to break eventually and you're just going to fall apart. You won't be able to do what you need to do. And yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Amnael, an interesting character, but man, is he going to be hard to play. So have fun. See y'all next time and goodbye.